Hello and blessings to you. In this video, we'll be covering chapter 19 in our first Hebrew primer, and we'll finally be talking about commands and also numbers as well. Now, unfortunately, this is the second time I'm recording this video because the first time did not work for some reason. So, oh well. Shouldn't really bother any of you too much, but here we go. I first wanted to go over some of the oral review just because it seems kind of fun. We'll be naming some tombs. So here we have Ha'ish Basade, Ha'ish Basade, Hi Ho Haderio, Ha'ish Basade. I don't know that I'll go through the whole thing this time though. So here we have the man in the field. The man in the field. Hi Ho Haderio. That should kind of give it away. The man in the field. So, obviously this is from The Farmer in the Dell. So, the man in the field, the man in the field, hi ho Haderio, the man in the field. So that's kind of fun. How about this next one? So we have Ach Yaakov, Ata Yoshev, Ata Yoshev. Kol Kore Ata, Kol Kore Ata, Ding Ding Dang, Ding Ding Dang. So I think this line gives it away. This is Brother Jacob, you are sitting, you are sitting. A voice is calling out now. A voice is calling out now. Ding ding dong, ding ding dong. So this is from Frere Jacques. That's kind of fun. I'll let you all see if you can decipher the rest of these. And I will point out this word right here, which will probably give this whole one away, is McDonald. So, La McDonald Hazaken Haya Sade E-I-E-I-O. So, to old MacDonald there was a field, E-I-E-I-O. So, that's kind of fun. I'll leave it to you to work through the rest of these if you'd like to. Moving on to our vocabulary. Here we have, I'm going to first just move down this first row. And I guess I'll start with the only one that's not a number. So here we have all, which is do not. So this will be useful for our commands. The rest of these are all numbers. And you've already learned echad. And one that's not listed here from chapter 17 is mea, 100. Okay. For the rest of these, though, it will probably be helpful to you if you conceptualize these as if we were counting. So as I move down through these, maybe be thinking 1, 2, 3, maybe kind of visualize this. It's kind of hard to write so small right here, but I did it. Great. So maybe kind of be visualizing these numbers as we kind of work through this. And I guess before I get started, I'll also point out there's masculine, feminine, a word pair masculine, and word pair feminine forms. Okay? So here we have Echad, Shanayim, Shalosha, Arva'a, Chamisha, Shisha, Shiv'a, Shamona, Tish'a, Asara, and then moving on to 20, we have Asarim, which is the plural of Asara. So maybe think about it as 2 tens. Then we have Elef for 1,000, as well as Elefim, thousands, and Alfei, the word pair form of thousands, so plural. Pretty interesting. So these were all the masculine forms, and if you noticed, they all end in comets hey, which is typically going to be a feminine ending. So this can be a little confusing for us as we work through this. The feminine endings are often formed just by removing this comet's hey ending, which is kind of opposite of what we're probably used to. Now here and there are also some vowel changes and sometimes even a letter change. Here in shatayim, notice that this nun is missing. This tav is much like the tav up here in 1, and this nun actually, because it's that weak letter, remember, it actually turned into this dagesh right there. So let's now go across these and see all the different forms. But we have achad, achat, achad, achad. So that's 1. Shanayim, shatayim, shanay, shatay. That's 2. Shalosha, shalosh, shaloshet, shalosh. It's 3. Arba'a, arba, arba'at, arba is 4. Chamisha, chamesh, chameshet, chamesh is 5. Shisha, shesh, sheshet, shesh is 6. Shiv'a, shava, shiv'at, shava is 7. Shemona, shemoneh, shomonat, shemoneh, 8. Tisha, tesha, tishat, tisha is 9. Asara, aser, aseret, aser is 10. All right. So if you've noticed, not only with these regular forms with the comet's hey, but also this tav is usually a feminine ending, and all of these tavs are actually indicative of the masculine with numbers. So things are kind of flipped. So keep that in mind moving forward with this. Definitely you'll need to be able to recognize all of these. And I would say the most important thing to recognize will be the consonants, because the vowels can kind of vary here and there. So let's kind of move on though. Let's move on to commands. So in English, our commands typically have one form, no matter who you are addressing or how many people are in that group. So we have David, go to the store, Leah, go to the store, gentlemen, go to the store, ladies, go to the store. So we just use the same word go for all of those commands. Now, of course, in Hebrew, masculine, feminine, singular, and plural will all have their own different forms. Okay, so we'll have up to 4 second-person commands for each of those: masculine singular, masculine plural, and feminine plural. Okay, and here's what those look like. And so we have shamor, which is our 2ms, shimri, which is our 2fs, shimru, which is our 2mp, and shamorna, which is our 2fp. Now, some of you might be rejoicing because there are only 4 forms of our command. So that is pretty nice. Now, another thing about commands, though, is that they actually derive from the imperfect. Okay? So if you'll notice, our command forms are actually the exact same as our imperfect of each of these 4 forms, minus the signal letter at the beginning. So if I took these signal letters away, you can see that this is what we're left with. But let's bring this back so we can kind of look closer. So, so our command forms are the imperfect forms minus the signal letter. Now, in some cases, with this double shava here, that this hieroc actually comes over as well, and we'll retain that hieroc. Okay, so let's look at some examples of this. So here we have our imperfect, tishma et kolenu, you will hear our voices. So here, this tishma, you can see is our imperfect form of the 2ms, right? And if we remove this signal letter, now we have shema et kolenu. So you can see everything's exactly the same except for the signal letter and this here kind of drop out. And what that does is it changes it from an imperfect, you will hear our voices, to a command, hear our voices. Now, I think I better say one note about English commands is that when we have a command in English, there is an understood you at the beginning of that. So technically this is you, hear our voices. But it's just understood, so it doesn't have to be there. But something to keep in mind as we move forward with these commands, because they are second person, so each of these can be you. Okay, next example. Tiftachu et ha-sa'arim. So this is you will open the gates. So this is a masculine plural command. Now we have pitchu et ha-sha'arim. And this is the command, open the gates. Now, if our verb will be imperfect in the, irregular in the imperfect, then those irregularities will also show up in the command form. So for instance, we have certain letters that drop out in the imperfect, like our lamed and lamed kof chet. So we have tichak et halechem, and that will be you will take the bread. The command form retains that irregularity, and we have just kach et halechem, take the bread. Okay. And both of these you can see are our 2ms forms. Another example is teshvu ba'aretz, so you will reside in the land. You can see that the yod of yeshav is missing. Yod shin bet, the yod is missing. We're familiar with that irregular form in the imperfect. Now when we move to a command, the yod is also missing. Shavu ba'aretz. So, settle in the land. Okay, I think all of this is fairly straightforward. And the way that you will be able to identify this is being very familiar with your imperfect. So if you are not yet familiar with the imperfect, reread chapters 11 and 12 to kind of see the particular things that can happen. Now, let's talk about the negative command. So if you noticed, all of these were positive. Now there's two primary ways of making commands negative in Hebrew, and both of them use the imperfect tense. So I believe I mentioned this before in class, but they both use the imperfect tense, which should even help you identify them a little better. The first example is using lo, so no or not, just kind of negates it. So literally here we have you will not make war. Now when you see that as a command, it has a bit of a stronger force as a permanent prohibition. So you shall not make war. Okay? The other way of making a command negative is with our new word all, which has the sense of do not. And this is more of an immediate or temporary prohibition. Okay, so all tiftach et hasha'ar would be do not open the gate. Okay, and both of those you can see this is just the regular imperfect form here. So it should be fairly easy to recognize, especially with this all form. This is only used with commands. So do not open. Okay, let's talk about numbers for a little bit. In Hebrew, you've already learned the number 1, and it's kind of different from the rest of them because the number 1, like other adjectives, appears after the noun that it describes. So here we have ish echad, so one man. All other numbers actually function as they do in English by coming before the noun. So here we have shalosha mala'akim, so 3 messengers. Chamesh banot, 5 daughters. And the numbers will agree with the noun that they describe in gender. Okay, so here we have arba'a anashim, so 4 men. Arba nashim, 4 women. Okay, you can see the differences between 4 in both of these examples. Now, one thing that's kind of different than what we might have in English is that the numbers can be followed either by a singular or a plural noun. And no matter what, they'll always have that plural meaning. So 3 men could be both shalosha ish, literally 3 man, or shalosha anashim, 3 men. Okay, both of those will be interpreted as 3 men. Okay, well, you might be curious where we go from 10 onward, and to do that, we simply follow one of our numbers by the word for 10. So similar to how we do in English with 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, that teen stands for 10. Okay, same thing happens in English, except we're more consistent with our 11 and 12. So those are both like 1 teen, 2 teen. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Let's kind of go through these. And of course, there'll be both masculine and feminine examples of this. But I'm just going to read this first column, the masculine column. So we have Achad Asar, Shenem Asar, Shalosha Asar, Arba'a Asar, Chamisha Asar, Shisha Asar, Shiva Asar, Shemona Asar, Tisha Asar, and then when we get to 20, we just make Asar plural and have Esarim. Okay. Now, you'll notice some of these do have vowel changes when combined like this, and so again, you just need to be familiar enough with these numbers that you recognize the consonants. Okay. And it could benefit you to kind of go through these as if you were counting, just like hopefully you'll go through these as if you're counting for practice, and that will help you with the familiarity of these. Last couple of things, and then we'll be done. As you can see from our vocabulary page, there is a regular form as well as a word pair form, and when you encounter a word pair form, they'll still just be translated as the regular form. So here we have Asara Yomim, and this is 10 days. Asaret Yamim is still 10 days. We wouldn't say 10 of days. It's just 10 days. Okay. You will see this more often if the noun that it's modifying is definite. So here we have Chameshet ha'anashim, the 5 men. And perhaps the reason for this is to let you know that this article does pull out to the front. So the 5 men. Shnei b'nei Yaakov, the 2 sons of Jacob. So if you have any questions about these, let me know. The last thing is another idiom in the Hebrew Bible, and it's about age. So when we're talking about the age of somebody in the Bible, we'll use bin or bat. So bin, son, bat, daughter. And as an example, we might say Avraham ben me'a shana. So Abraham, in noun sentence, is a son of 100 years. Okay, so that's a little bit of a modification, I think, of what we actually have in Genesis. And I don't think this one appears at all, but it's still a good example. So here we have Rachel bat Sheva shanim. Rachel is a daughter of 7 years. So kind of interesting. I've never really actually heard people talk about maybe if this has theological significance or what this cultural idea might represent. Maybe it's tying the person into the family, or maybe it's the child of time itself. I don't really know. But pretty interesting. Well, that's all that we have for this lesson, so blessings to you. Have a great day.